It says it's on. Now it's on. More. I'd like to call the December 7th, 2021 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I'd like to announce that if you parked in the county's parking facility or use public transit to travel to this meeting, you can get parking and transit validation from one of the sheriff's officers who is with us this evening. Let me read the ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which would have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on any matters voted on by the board at the meeting this evening. Commissioners, are there any questions about any items on the consent agenda? Are there any members of the public who have any questions about any items that are listed on our consent agenda? All right, if not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and to follow the remainder of the agenda as it's published with the addition of, we have a HHS employees recognition that we will add under good news. We also will have a closed session immediately following the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Frew, there's a need for a closed session. Could you explain the purpose of the closed session?
Yes, sir. We request a motion to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143, 318.11A3 to consult with attorneys retained or employed by Buncombe County to retain the attorney-client privilege. We don't anticipate action by the board in open session, but probably some direction from the board.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to go into closed session for the reasons stated? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. I expect this might be around 20 minutes or so, but we'll be back and we'll go back into open session. Is there a motion to go back into open session?
So move.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. We are back in open session, and we now come to public comment. Let me read the policies and public comment. The time limit for individual comment to the board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any questions along with your name, address, and phone number with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on any matters during the public comment period. This is the chance for the public to speak to the board. And we have several folks who have signed up, so I'm going to go through that list. And also, when you come up to the podium, you're going to get 3 minutes. You'll get an orange light when you've got 30 seconds left, and a red light when your time is up. And we ask that folks please discontinue the public comments at that time, because we want to give everyone the same amount of time to speak. And the first person that signed up is Grant Millen.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is Grant Millen. I'm a longtime Buncombe resident. While I live near Mission Hospital now, I lived in Otine for many years. I just registered as an Asheville City Council candidate. I am submitting detailed written comments later at a date of my convenience. For now, here's a summary of some current issues. There are views that there should be no virtual public comment for City of Asheville COA, Council, or Buncombe County Government BCG Commissioner meetings. People get to share, and virtual is the modern way of adding to the democratic process. It's not safe to gather in person, and it's just time to make commission meetings permanently virtual. Again, you've tried it and it worked. And even if in-person is feasible again in the future as well. So, hybrid, in-person and virtual going down the road. I don't have enough on the BCG, COA, and law enforcement insight myself to say more now on the following, but the October 1st, 2021 Justice Research Advisory Council, JRAC, minutes include a Family Justice Center update slide deck claiming sexual assault arrests are up 73% when compared to July, December 2020 range compared to the January, June 2021 period. What department is making these increased sexual assault arrests? Sheriff, APD, or both? How many for each agency? What is the 10-year crime trend for Asheville in each Buncombe town? Please define the different types of assault and rapes and all other crimes. Who are the sexual assault assailants? Any prior convictions? What is the pace and outcome of the court cases? What are their sentences? Few citizens have any idea about JRAC or the related safety and justice challenge. My written comments will include rectifying the comments I shared at the June 15th, 2021 Commissioners meeting compared to how Joel Burgess with the Asheville Citizen Times covered the BCG Racial Equity Action Plan. As of this moment, I am introducing the Citizens with Disabilities Equity Action Plan and the Asheville Buncombe Americans with Disabilities Act Compliance Transparency Program. I'll tell you more about that later. In August, I asked for the Plan B on the East Asheville Ramada Inn Erie initiative and the idea that COA would enlist BCG in combining American Rescue Plan Act funds for an emergency shelter with a major harm reduction function. I have insisted COA immediately release the RFP IPS 298 responses.
Hey, Grant, your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person that signed up is Shaka Khan Gordon. All right, the next person I see on the list is Corey Wilharm. While you're speaking, yeah, it's fine. Yep. Just put it back on when you go sit down, please.
I wanted to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the commissioners for keeping the libraries open as it's inspiring to know that our voices count. It is so important that elected officials listen to the community. That is the backbone of democracy. I feel like my voice was heard and that our concerns were taken to heart. As the city moves forward with alternate plans for the Ramada Inn, my hope is that you use your power, influence, and experience to help guide City Council through this process. Transparency and open communication are the keys that will help bring about a solution that will benefit the communities, the businesses, the children, and the homeless who need support. While the solution to homelessness can be a difficult path, I think we can all agree that it is a communal goal. Homelessness affects both city and the county and should be addressed by both governments. Due to the lack of communication from the city over the past few months, I feel strongly that the Buncombe County Commissioners should take an active role in the next steps for the Ramada Inn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey. The next person is Carrie Smith.
Good evening, Commissioners. I would first like to thank you again for saving our library and letting you know how grateful our community is for that. Secondly, I would also like to express my gratitude for listening to our community members during the last meeting that we had here. Safety for our community, elders, business owners, and children is our highest priority in our neighborhood. Most of our community is in support of helping people find housing, including low-income housing. We would hope your voices will be part of the planning with the Ramada Inn in the near future as we welcome new members into the community in which we live. We would like to be ensured safety is the #1 goal. A place where we could volunteer safely as a community with our children and create meaningful experiences such as a reading buddy program and an expansion of our community garden. We hope to see some of you during the improvement of our library, as well as the next steps with the Ramada Inn. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, Carrie. The next person that signed up is Elizabeth McDaniel, and then after Elizabeth is McKenna James, who I believe might be in the overflow area, so if McKenna could be notified that they'll be up next.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elizabeth McDavid, and I'm a resident of Oakley. I actually participated in the selection process for the contractor that was going to manage the low barrier shelter that would have been at the Ramada Inn, but we know that's no longer happening. The county needs more Code Purple shelters and shelters for low barrier access, including non-congregate shelters. We also need much more permanently affordable housing. So I'm asking you to please act now on this critical and urgent need. The county owns vacant buildings right close to here that can be immediately transformed into shelters for Code Purple days or into low barrier shelters. You could give out meal vouchers and have food trucks come by with meals. I mean, it's not really hard. You just have to use your imagination. I'm asking you to be creative and to make this happen. It's not always the most popular idea that is the right one and the morally correct one. I'm asking you to be morally I'm asking you to be morally right on this. It's getting cold at night. We need leadership and action on this. So please be the leaders that we elected you all to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. David. Is McKenna coming? Okay. All right. That's everybody who signed up. Is there anybody else in here who would like to address the board during public comment? All right. So we now come to good news. And we did add this one additional item to it. So why don't we take that one up first? And I believe that Assistant County Manager DK Wesley is going to present,
I'll take care of that.
or County Manager Avril Pender will, regarding HHS employees recognition.
Thank you, Commissioner. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, health and safety of our community has been Buncombe County's highest priority. At a recent reception, the Chamber of Commerce recognized many of our COVID response team members as local COVID humanitarians. The awardees are Stacy Saunders, I believe Stacy is with us, Dr. Jennifer Mullendor, Stacy Wood, who's also with us, Andrew Duckett, Brittany Robinson, Nathan Green, Fletch Tobe, and Tim Love. So I'd like to take a moment to just congratulate them because they have been in the trenches from day one. These have been the folks that have really worked with our community and leadership here at the county to bring stability during the COVID pandemic and help us to really get where we are today with about 70% of our folks vaccinated. So I want to take a round of applause and thank them for that. It has truly been a team effort, but those were the names that we recognized, but it was a whole county team behind that group, so thank you.
Thank you. It's more than well-deserved. Thank you all for your great service during this challenging time. And there is one other public official we also want to recognize, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Wells.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to share that on December 1st, at its Board of Delegates meeting, the Land of Sky Regional Council honored County Manager Avril Pender by bestowing the prestigious Robert Parrish Senior Intergovernmental Relations Award. Avril was nominated not only because she led the region's largest local government during the pandemic with unprecedented challenges. Additionally, she has helped lead regional collaboration among the council's local governments, especially with the city of Asheville, but also including the smaller municipalities in the county and with other counties in the region. This award, also presented at the discretion of the council's executive committee, is to an elected or appointed official who has made significant contributions to improve intergovernmental cooperation within the region. This award honors the memory of the late council chairman and longtime Fletcher mayor, Robert Parrish, who received the 2000 North Carolina Intergovernmental Relations Award. Congratulations, Avril, and thank you so much for your wonderful work and dedication.
Congratulations, Avril, and to all the county employees. You all do great work every day, and you make us all really proud, so thank you for your public service. Yes, sir.
In the overflow that didn't get a chance to sign up, but Lori Timmerman would like.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, you can just go to the podium.
I'm here today to address the mask mandate issue, and I've sent you several letters stating high-level science, peer-reviewed science regarding mask mandates, including a report titled "COVID Charts CNN Forgot." The conclusion of that report was, if you graph these results any way you like, lockdown stringency, mobility patterns, mask mandates, these results are completely random and they do not show a clear pattern. None of it has worked. This is joined by a review of the National Bureau of Economic Research, which presented analysis of data sets from 23 countries, 25 US states. And the paper concluded, the data trends indicate that non-pharmaceutical interventions, lockdowns, closures, travel restrictions, stay-at-home orders, event bans, quarantines, curfews, mask mandates do not seem to affect the virus transmission rates at all. Another 133-page report called "Why Wearing a Mask Makes Healthy People Sick," Dr. Jim Meehan presents analytical review of decades of research literature on masking to prevent infectious disease, and he concludes decades of highest level scientific evidence based on meta-analyses, random controlled trials overwhelmingly conclude that medical masks are ineffective at preventing the transmission of respiratory viruses. So these reports are also supported by another 61 studies and reports that have been conducted. So I'll just, I'll just refer to the first 5 or 6 of these. It goes, in one study, it says they did not observe association between mask mandates use and reduced COVID-19 spread in the United States. Another report said none of the common masks available on the consumer market work well unless they're fully sealed, properly fitted, changed often, and have a filter designed for virus-sized particles, which represent none of the common masks available today. Protective mask mandates appear to, aimed at combating the spread, appear to promote its spread. There's absolutely no evidence the mask mandate worked to slow the spread. Evidence from 14 randomized controlled trials of these measures did not support a substantial effect on transmission. So this is from a report and study of more than 400 studies on the failure of compulsory COVID interventions. And this I will share with you with your communications person. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up on our agenda is a presentation from the Buncombe County School Capital Fund Commission, and the commission chair, Max Queen, is here, and I think some other folks are here as well, perhaps, to help us out with this presentation. Thanks for being here, Mr. Queen.
Good evening, Chairman Newman, fellow commissioners, and distinguished staff that are among us as well. My name is Max Queen. I am the district representative for the Inca District, Buncombe County Schools, and currently chairing the School Capital Fund Commission. There we go. Have a few slides I'd like to share with you that give you overview of the work of the Capital Fund Commission, as well as some of the projects that we're involved with now. And in addition, I would like to say that I have 2 members in the audience who are here that may be able to field any other additional questions you may have. One is Mr. Tim Fearley. He is the basically the director of an oversight of all of the building and grounds, et cetera, for Buncombe County Schools. And the second is Mr. Ronnie Lunsford. Ronnie is actually a county employee, but he is working with Asheville City Schools to give them guidance and advice along the way. And they're both in the audience, and I appreciate them very much for being here. As you can see here, School Capital Fund Commission is an advisory board. It's made up of 5 members who make recommendations to the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners relating to school capital projects. The 5 members include representation from both schools, one from Buncombe County, one from Asheville City. We have 2 members from the Board of Commissioners, yourselves, and we have 1 member that is an at-large member that is elected by the 4 appointed members to the board. The original legislation establishing the commission was established back in 1983, but in 2016, there was a significant amount of change that went into the process, resulting from the legislation that occurred in 2016. And that is really what I'm here to bring you all up to date on, and we can discuss this evening. We're fortunate to have a dedicated funding source for both the Asheville City and Buncombe County Schools. And this funding is made available through 1/2 of the Article 39 sales tax. The sales tax revenue yield approximately $23 million annually, with a projected 4% growth annually. Our process is collaborative. We work closely with the school systems to hear their requests and plan for the future, and we hold regular meetings from July through March. The criteria for these allocations, if you will, are the project must be greater than $100,000. It must be intended to create or address safety and health concerns. comply with legal requirements, maintain the lowest life cycle costs, and improve the educational environment of the school systems. As I mentioned, the annual process of going through and reviewing and funding these requests begin in July and end the following spring. The school system have their own processes to determine what projects they will bring to the commission. As noted earlier, only a portion of school capital requests are presented to the School Capital Fund Commission. At its July meeting, the commission will go through any appointments that need to be considered. In the September meeting, we provide an opportunity for the school systems to present their priority capital list. In October, the Buncombe County staff present fund balance forecasts and updates to the Capital Fund Commission that will assist us in our deliberation of these projects. And then we collectively vote and make decisions as to the recommendations that we want to pass along to the Buncombe County Commissioners. Buncombe County staff compile the request, and the Buncombe County Budget Office presents the recommended priority list to the commissioners in November. The school systems are then notified of the fully approved project list and begin their process for bidding the process, their work. The February and March meetings provide an opportunity for school systems to update the commission on past approved projects and to note which projects may be closed. Our current cycle recommended $22 million in projects across both school systems, and we were able to meet all of the current high priority requests in both systems for this year. The Board of County Commissioners approved our recommendations at the November 2nd meeting this year, and we would like to, speaking for both school systems, thank you for approving those and the consideration that you gave that matter. The total amounts for both school systems, Buncombe County received $14.4 million and Asheville City Schools received $7.5 million. If we look at the list of the approved items, you can see here on your screens a variety of these items. I believe Asheville City had 7 items, and Buncombe County, I believe, may have had 13, as I recall. And again, that totaled almost $22 million, $21,998,175. One thing I would like to just mention in regards to Buncombe County Schools, in case you didn't know, Buncombe County Schools, out of 115 LEAs in North Carolina, Buncombe County Schools is the 13th largest. And when we start looking at the size of the infrastructure there, you might be surprised to learn that the total square footage of Buncombe County Schools, 4.6 million square feet. And if you consider roof, 4.5 million square feet. And if you think about that, and just think about your own homes and things you have to keep, abreast of, and as far as maintenance and that kind of thing, that is a very, very large amount of square footage and area that we have to address. And oftentimes, during top budget years, it's easy to say, well, we just don't have enough to fix a roof, or we don't have enough to repair an HVAC system or something. But typically, that snowballs as it moves on down, and having this money available to address these priority needs is very, very important to both school systems. These pictures reflect some recently completed projects for Buncombe County Schools. And if you'll look at the top left, that's a new high school turf and track at North Buncombe High School. The top right is the Inca Middle School re-roofing project. And I would pause there for a minute since that's in my district, and I would say that school was built in 1955. It was Inca High School. I attended high school there. Robert, I imagine, attended high school there. And I simply say that the longevity of that building now, we're, 65 years old, 70 years old. But it is still the bones are there, the structure's there. And by being able to put a new roof on it, Certainly, that takes care of a lot of issues as far as water intrusion into the building, those kind of things. And that's the kind of project that, that we're really looking for as priority for these type requests. The lower right is the Haw Creek renovations, and lower left is the North Buncombe Middle Art and Spanish Classroom. The next slide depicts some of the projects completed with Asheville City School. Upper left is the Asheville High School. That was part of a larger project, but that was re-roofing of Asheville High School. And that was a quite a large and significant capital project. Over to the right were skylights that were put into the Lucy S. Herring School, and the bottom left, Hall Fletcher restrooms renovation. So with that said, that's a summary in a nutshell, and I would be happy to field any questions, or my two colleagues in the audience can assist.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Queen. Any questions? You did such a great presentation. There's no questions, but
Very good.
Tim and Ronnie, thank you both for being here as well. We really appreciate all your input and recommendations from our two county school systems to the Capital Commission. I really enjoy serving on there. I think it's been one of the best processes we put together in recent years for good communication and planning between the different districts. And Max, thanks for serving as chair. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And again, I just reemphasize, it's a very collaborative process. We invite the stakeholders to the table, they bring their priorities, and they put a lot of time and effort into making those priorities and making them genuine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, excuse me. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing Adoption Awareness Month. And I believe Lizzie Scheimer from Health and Human Services is going to present this item. Is that right?
That is probably.
I'm sorry, it's just a leftover from our last
Yeah.
agenda. We're good. Let's do it again. It was so good last time. I want to hear it all again. Okay, sorry. Deja vu. Didn't we just talk about this? Okay, right. We come to public hearings. So the public hearings are related to the local national recovery funding for several projects that are defined as economic development projects. And Tim Love, our Director of Intergovernmental Relations, will present this item.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This evening, we have a public hearing request, and to get that going, we'll have a quick presentation. As you know, you've approved items for the American Rescue Plan Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, but as Chair Newman said, some of those items do require a public hearing. So a request this evening, at the November 16th meeting, the Board of Commissioners approved a number of items. As discussed, those appropriations which were economic development related require a public hearing. And so our request this evening is for the Board of Commissioners to conduct a single public hearing, so just one public hearing. However, 3 separate votes, one vote for each of the appropriations that are listed on the slide. And so those appropriations relate to the Asheville Area Arts Council, Eagle Market Streets, and the Self-Help Ventures Fund. And before we go any further, I just wanted to recognize that we've got representatives from those organizations in the audience today. The Arts Council here, Katie Cornell, Eagle Market Street, Stephanie is here with us as well. And we've got a representative from Mountain BizWorks, Matt Raker. Self-Help isn't with us today, but Matt is representing on behalf. So again, today requesting a single public hearing to collect community input on those 3 items, but then 3 separate votes for today. So I'll be pretty brief and just kind of go over each of the appropriations. So to the Asheville Area Arts Council, approximately $50,000 for the Creative Sector Recovery Grant. The spirit of this is to create new jobs, retain jobs, and rehire jobs in the arts sector. And that would be spearheaded by the Asheville Area Arts Council. For Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation, $375,000 for the Community Equity Fund. This is a program which seeks to create jobs, retain jobs, rehire jobs for small businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. The Self-Help Ventures Fund for $1.25 million. This relates to the Mountain Community Capital Fund, which is an initiative that this board approved approximately 3 years ago. It's a partnership with the city of Asheville as well as Buncombe County and 3 community development financial institutions. Those are Self-Help, Mountain BizWorks, and Carolina Small Business. Again, this program seeks to create, retain, and rehire jobs for small businesses impacted by COVID-19 through the form of a loan guarantee program. So those are our 3 appropriations. I know that you've all reviewed many materials before allocating funds in our last meeting, but just wanted to sort of reiterate that for those watching at home. So back to our request, again, Board of Commissioners to conduct a single public hearing to gather feedback on all 3 appropriations. At the conclusion of that public hearing, would ask that you have a separate vote to approve each of the resolutions for each of these 3 appropriations. At this time, I will stop talking.
All right, thanks, Tim. Commissioners, are there any questions at this time? If not, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing on consideration of these 3 economic development projects. I'll open the public hearing at 6:23 p.m. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any of the proposed 3 economic development projects?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My only comments would be to say thank you to Buncombe County staff and to the county commissioners for all your support in years past and in this most recent consideration. Thank you.
Do you wish to comment too? Yeah, please come on up to the mic.
I also would like to express my gratitude on behalf of the arts sector for including us in this grant. And one of your questions for me was about the state funding for the arts that is coming. And now that the budget has passed, I did want to take this opportunity to give you a bit of an update. The state budget did include $15 million for the arts in this fiscal year. That is ARP funding. That will be given to the North Carolina Arts Council, and a large portion of it will be distributed on a per capita basis to all the counties. As the designated arts agency for Buncombe County, that will come to the Asheville Area Arts Council for distribution. It will not likely come in this fiscal year, though. From what we understand, it will probably be distributed in FY23 and maybe split over FY23 and 24. So this funding is an important bridge funding since we won't receive any more state aid this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. All right, anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:25 p.m. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Asheville Area Arts Council resolution.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a second resolution?
I make the motion to approve the $375,000 to the Eagle Market Street Development Corporation.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
And I'll make a motion to approve the $1,250,000 to the Self-Help Ventures Fund.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I just want to say thanks to the 3 organizations that brought these projects forward. These are all really very innovative proposals, and as folks know, the commission reviewed well over 100 different proposals, and I think these really stood out as, there was very hard decisions to make, so many good ideas, but these really stood out as really strong ideas for helping the people in our community who are out there, who have a vision for owning their own business or growing a locally owned business, which is really the heart of our economy. And so thank you all for helping to support the entrepreneurs and the people who dream of being an entrepreneur and a local business owner in our community to help make that a reality. So thanks for your great work, and we look forward to updates on it as you all move forward. And thanks for being here tonight. Okay, now we come to the county manager's report.
Two quick items, sir. The Board of Commissioners, along with staff, will begin our FY '23 budget planning with a budget retreat on Thursday, December the 9th. Beginning at 12 p.m., the meeting will be at AB Tech campus at the 9 Genevieve Circle. This meeting is an open meeting, so while seating is limited, we do invite the public to attend, and they can follow along on our Facebook stream, Buncombe County Government page. The agenda is currently posted, so there's items on that agenda that we will address that will guide a budget planning for upcoming fiscal years. And the second item is on a lighter note, Lake Julian Festival of Lights. That kicked off on December the 1st, and it's going to run through December 23rd. This is our 21st year, and we average about 24,000 visitors over the 23 nights. In our first week, we've had already 7,500 visitors. 20% of those proceeds will go to the Buncombe County Special Olympics. I do want to remind folks that tonight is our Manna Food Bank night. So if you come, you can bring 4 cans and you will get free entry into the light show tonight. Tickets can be purchased online or on-site for those that are trying to go and don't have the food for tonight or any other night. You can purchase tickets online or on-site. Those are my 2 items of update.
Great, thank you. Old business. First is a resolution approving the memorandum of agreement between the state of North Carolina and local governments on proceeds relating to the settlement of opioid litigation. Senior Staff Attorney Michael Free will present this item.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a redo, just out of an abundance of caution to make sure we have all our Ts crossed and Is dotted before a deadline of January 2nd for acceptance of the allocation of the national settlement proceeds. Back on June 1st, this board approved a resolution which had sort of become problematic, honestly, because there was 2,000 some lawyers that couldn't agree as to how settlement proceeds were going to be distributed. So we included in that resolution back in June that if we didn't understand exactly how and what part of the proceeds the attorneys were going to agree to for allocation, that resolution would be voided. So since that time, that was the memorandum of understanding between the state and all local governments in North Carolina, that is the 100 counties and about 14, 15 municipalities. All the municipalities have agreed to this, and 85 counties have agreed. So we've passed the critical mass. But by repassing this resolution now, we are eliminating that contingency language to abide by the agreement with the state for allocation of roughly now $850 million of the 26-odd billion, which would be going to the settlement. And also, this resolution passing now would authorize the county manager to accept the allocation of the national settlement funds directly to the state for our portion. So this just is something to clean up that, accept the funds, accept the agreement with the state.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Or is there a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Frew.
Yes, sir.
If I could just take one very brief moment to share a quick update on this.
Sure.
Just want to share that over the course of the last month or two, there's been an opportunity to convene folks from across Western North Carolina to talk about not just the MOA, but how the actual settlement funds will be moved, or rather be used once it happens. NCACC and DOJ have been convening those conversations, and just kind of want to share back that there seems to be a lot of exciting interest in cross-county collaborations on some of the strategies that we know would probably be most effective if they didn't stop at county lines. So as we all sort of prepare for that, there's certainly a lot of incredible work underway in Buncombe and specific to Buncombe, but I think there are also some emerging opportunities for very exciting sort of partnerships and collaborations with other folks across the West.
Great, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, the next item on our agenda will be a discussion and consideration of the affirmation of the extension of the Buncombe County face covering requirement. As you will all recall, we did an extension through the end of November, but the date of that extension expired on a date after the last county commission meeting in November. So towards the end of the month, based on recommendations from the public health staff, I issued an updated order that extended it out until the first Tuesday in January. And as chair of the commission, I had the authority to do that, but I also wanted to basically bring the issue to the county commission at our first meeting of this month to discuss it and to, discern the support of the direction from the majority of the board. So that's the purpose of the discussion this evening, is to basically decide to, the majority of the board can decide if we want to keep this policy in place as outlined in the updated order, or do something different. And obviously, this is an issue that there's a wide range of public viewpoints on. It's either the best decision or the stupidest decision, depending on the wide range of opinions that exist in our community around these issues, of course. So as I mentioned in some of my comments on it, it's not, for myself, it's not a decision that I took lightly. I think in normal circumstances, policies like this would, of course, be well outside the normal decisions that local governments make, but of course, we live in unusual times, too. And because of the fact that we're still in, the holidays, one of the busiest times that people are out in public shopping, the fact that the COVID numbers had begun rising somewhat again since earlier in the month. And, perhaps for myself, most significant in my personal thinking about it was the emergence over during the Thanksgiving holidays about news of a worrisome new variant of COVID, which we don't know a lot more about now than we did then, but I think the expectation is that over the next couple of weeks, we'll know a lot more about it, because all the leading world health organizations are looking at this to try to determine if it's just one more variant that might not have a lot of consequence on this, or might be something that's more dangerous from a public health perspective. But in light of that uncertainty, for myself, and I think most of the commissioners I had a chance to speak with, felt that keeping the policy in place through the end of the year was the right call to make at that time. But I'll be happy to open it up and let any other commissioners share their thoughts. I think we should have a motion on this, just to go ahead and make it clear what the majority position of the board is on this policy.
I move that we approve the motion.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion and second to affirm the extension of the county's current mask policy through the first Tuesday of January. Any further discussion?
Depending on where we are with this in January, when we come to this, maybe we need to look at changing the wording to we extend it to further notice, some way where we can, at any time stop it. Of course, we can do that now, I guess. But, when you look at the seriousness of what's going on with the virus, and I'll be the first to say I hate wearing the mask, but I want to stay around a few more years too. But I really think, though, we need to look at that rather than every month or so, have to extend it.
Other thoughts?
I would agree with Al. I think there's some merit to keeping this in the news and talking about it and checking in with each other. So there's some value there, but I also wish there was, I don't know, I think there'd be benefit in giving the community a goal and kind of tying this to some sort of metrics, whether it's a percentage of the population getting vaccinated, or a case rate, or maybe a couple overlapping metrics, something like that, to where we could all look towards that and fight towards that goal, and maybe the mask thing goes away. I don't know. Other than that, I'd like to say, we have to, as a society, eventually decouple our policy thoughts from the quantity of cases as the virus becomes endemic. But I don't know that we're there yet, so those are all my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that, like, the principle of it makes sense, define some objective criteria and then follow those. And when they're met, they're met. Until they're not met, they're not met. I get that. And so I'm not against kind of the principle of it. I guess I would say, for myself, in terms of thinking about what some of those principles are, to me, the most significant one has always been that we need to make sure that we do preserve the capacity of our medical system and hospital system to care for those who become so sick that they require hospital care. And at a couple of different times during COVID, if you talk to folks who work there, they would say the hospital really, truly was being overwhelmed, and they could not provide adequate care for folks who were there because there were so many sick folks coming in. That affects not just the care of folks who have COVID, but also anything else that you might need hospital care for too, because there's just not enough personnel to take care of everyone. So I think the preservation of the capacity of the hospital is to me the most important of the different factors that ought to be considered. And I do think that there is, I think there is a fair likelihood that the levels of just overall transmission might remain what's, according to, some of these standards, is considered high. I mean, that may remain the case for a very long time. So for me, I don't necessarily, if it's just that factor alone, I don't think I would continue to support this kind of requirement just based on that factor alone. The other factor, getting beyond the holidays, to me is, I'll be glad when we're through that from a health standpoint. And the other one that I think gives me a lot of optimism is the development of some of the new treatments for COVID that, based on this, studies that have been done, provide very effective treatments when folks receive them within the first 5 days of developing symptoms. The Pfizer one has been reported to reduce hospitalizations by 85%. So it appears we are about to be in an era of much more effective treatments for COVID for folks, and they can, these will be over the counter. They will not require a doctor to administer. They will require a prescription, but my hope is that that'll, will find us in a place where people should still be careful. Vaccinations are still very important, but the disease will be a lot less threatening to folks because we have much more effective treatments. If those are the kind of environments that we find ourselves in early next year, for myself, I honestly would be inclined to not extend the mask requirement further. I believe the vaccines are very safe and very effective, and people have had almost a year to take them, and some folks have chosen not to. And I think that I have a lot of reservations about having a sort of society-wide requirement to try to influence the decisions of just some parts of our community. That's my personal perspective on it. Any other thoughts folks might want to share? All right. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you all, commissioners. Next, we come to the selection of vice chair. This is a decision that we make each year, and I think based on, there's a state law that says we have to do it at this date, or effective. Is it effective at this date, or refresh me on the details of that, Mr. Frew?
The statute 153A39, on odd numbered years, it's on the first regular meeting in December. Even numbered years is the first Monday in December, but that's the requirement to appoint a vice chair. And it would be a chairman as well amongst a member if the chair wasn't elected separately.
Got it. Okay. All right. Is there a motion for the appointment of the next vice chair of the commission?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Edwards.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and second for appointment of Commissioner Amanda Edwards. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Commissioner Whitesides, thank you for serving as vice chair this year. We appreciate it. And Commissioner...
It was the most difficult job I've ever had.
And Commissioner Edwards, thank you for being willing to serve this coming year.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we now come to the FY22 Affordable Housing Services Program reallocations, and Matt Cable will help us with these items.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The item before you tonight has to do with the reallocation of an existing award approved by the Board of Commissioners. If you'll recall, through the budgeting process last year, Mountain Housing Opportunities was identified to receive an $800,000 FY22 Affordable Housing Services Program loan. That award was contingent on their receipt of low-income housing tax credit funding, so they were in the middle of an award application process. MHO did not receive that funding and subsequently actually sought recovery funding through the board, which has been approved. So that project is moving forward, but that loan is no longer needed to support the project. So at its November 16th meeting, the Affordable Housing Committee moved to recommend that the Board of Commissioners support tenant-based rental assistance activities that weren't initially funded through the review of applications for this fiscal year, using a portion of that $800,000 in funding that is now available. In your agenda item, you'll see listed a $15,000 grant for tenant-based rental assistance for the ARC of Buncombe County, $100,000 grant for Evelyn Charities tenant-based rental assistance program, as well as a $13,500 grant for the Elida Homes tenant-based rental assistance program. The Affordable Housing Committee plans to consider recommendations on the balance of funds. So of that available $800,000, a balance of $671,000 would be available for future reallocation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the request that's before you.
Yes, I'm interested. Could you just tell us a little bit more about each of those specifics of those programs?
Sure. So each of the applicants went through the initial process, and there was some thought that recovery funding might be available to support the projects, which was why they were not initially funded. The ARC of Buncombe County intends to serve individuals with disabilities and tenant-based rental assistance, so it's a specialized population. Elida Homes is intended to serve youth that are coming out of their programs and looking for placement, so tenant-based rental assistance to get them into housing. And then Evelyn Charities targets older adults that aren't typically eligible for other funding streams made available to families. Evelyn has regularly received that funding in prior years. Elida Homes has received that funding in prior years, so this will be their second allocation. The ARC of Buncombe County received funding a number of years ago through the program, and this is their first time reentering for tenant-based rental assistance in some years.
And I think as was noted, I think as we've lived into the pandemic stuff, we've recognized that the CARES funding and things like that have been tremendously beneficial and important, but that there are gaps there. There are folks that it cannot be used to help. So there's an important need here that we need to help fill. Is there a motion regarding the proposed reallocations?
So motion. Yeah, I'll second Commissioner Edwards' motion.
All right. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, Matt. And next up is consideration of COVID premium pay policy. And Heather Parkinson will help us with this.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Heather Parkinson. I work in the Strategy and Innovation Department with the county. Coming to you all tonight to talk about COVID premium pay and a policy that spells out the eligibility and criteria, et cetera. So the formal request that I will have is to ask you to approve the policy that should be in your packets. I'll go into a little bit more detail on the next slide, but as a generality, it includes or involves employee compensation. So we want to make sure that we have a formal policy in place and that you all approve it. background is that in September of this year, you all approved $1,040,000 of ARPA funds for COVID premium pay. That is premium pay for Buncombe County employees. Since then, we have been awaiting further guidance from the federal government. And unfortunately, we still don't have the finalized guidance. What we have is the interim guidance. Luckily, we have UNC School of Government that has provided their interpretation based on best and available interim guidance, and state that we should have this formal policy in place and follow all of the interim guidance. An overview of the policy that you have before you is that it is meant to provide a one-time monetary incentive or payment for active eligible employees. I'll note that employees must be active at the time of payout. And it's only available for staff that incurred a specific COVID-19 risk during a specific time period. Time period is March 10th, 2020 through March 10th, 2021. Documentation of that risk and eligibility is required per federal guidelines. And the federal guidance does list a threshold that's meant to encourage the use of these ARPA funds for lower wage workers. In the policy, when the county looked at eligibility for all county employees, we identified some high-risk employees that worked in first responder or public health duties that we would provide exceptional documentation that rise above that threshold. And that's what, in looking at those individuals, what we found is the nature of their duties required them to work longer hours and to incur overtime that put them over that threshold. So that is just the one exception that I want to point out. Details of the eligibility. There are 4 categories, starting with the top is the core COVID group. These are individuals that worked 75% of every day in that time period and were critical to the county's response to getting those first testing sites up, to the communication out to the public, the coordination, planning, et cetera. It's just a select group of individuals. Followed by the high-risk category. These employees are or worked on the front lines 50% of every day, and their job required direct customer contact, and that's physical contact. In this category, think first responders. Medium to low risk category, these employees, again, worked 50% out of every day in that time period, and their job required them to have indirect customer contact. They provided mandated service to the public. Here, think where we were able to put some barriers in place, but they still had shared surfaces and still had to be out in public. And then this last category was really meant to capture anyone else that we needed to have reassigned in order to respond to the pandemic. So we had staff that was reassigned to the testing sites and to the vaccine sites, and or delivered supplies out into the community and had direct contact. The organizational impact of this is that 757 employees are eligible. So I want to point out that this is not meant for all employees for Buncombe County. It's very specific, and it's meant to be very specific per federal guidelines. The projected ARPA funding that we would use to pay out those 757 employees comes to $1,029,000. And we have since, in the time period since you all approved funding, identified that we can utilize some North Carolina Department of Public Health funding to cover $120,000. So you'll note that in September, you approved $1,040,000. We're now only asking for $1,029,000 of the ARPA funding, so that remaining balance will go back into that pot of money. Next steps are to have you all approve the policy. And upon approval, we would proceed with distributing payment to the eligible employees effective at the end of this month. It would be on their paycheck. Any questions?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. The last item under new business is consideration of a budget amendment for community development staffing and county-owned property feasibility studies. And are we doing this? Okay, all right. Okay. Commissioners, there's a staff report here. This is a recommendation that's coming to the board from the Affordable Housing Committee. And basically, it's for, our community development department has lost some staffing who had some opportunities. And so the part of this is filling in some important positions as well as adding some staff. At our retreat this weekend, we're going to be hearing more from our staff and from the subcommittee about setting some very ambitious goals for expansion of affordable housing construction and development in Buncombe County, including consideration of potential opportunities on some county-owned properties. We've already been exploring such opportunities like that at early stages, of course, on Ferry Road. But we think that there are other opportunities as well. And with buildable, high-quality land being one of our most important limiting factors for new affordable housing development in the community, looking at some of these opportunities where the taxpayers already owned real estate is, I think staff in the subcommittee feel like that's an important opportunity to explore. So, but these positions are also just important to effectively administer our existing services. We've heard tonight about several of the different programs that the county supports as it relates to affordable housing services. And so these positions are also simply important to maintain the county's current level of programming and services and partnerships in the affordable housing space. So that's what these budget amendments that's the purpose for these positions. Are there any other things that I should add or any questions from the commission on these items? If not, is there a motion to support the budget amendment?
Motion to support the budget amendment for community development staffing and county-owned property feasibility studies.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you so much. And I believe we now come to our board appointments. Hey.
Chairman Newman, I'm sorry. In addition to the budget amendments, if you are establishing the three positions, we do need approval to establish three positions. You think so? Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure. Covering my bases.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks for checking. All right, under the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, we've got 2 reappointments and 1 appointment. And I'll make a motion to reappoint Mary Adami and Paula Garber and to appoint Zoe Tate.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We come to the VIA Health Board Advisory position, and there's a need to appoint a commissioner to serve, and then 1 other position as well. 1 other appointment as well.
Correct. Currently, DK Leslie serves as that incumbent, so I'd like to recommend that you keep her in that role, in the other role.
Okay. And we discussed at the last board meeting that Commissioner Beach Ferrara has an interest in serving, so thank you for that. I'll make a motion to appoint Commissioner Jasmine Beach Ferrara and also DK Wesley to continue serving.
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you both for representing us on this important board. Mr. Fruit, do we have a need for any other closed session this evening? Fantastic.
Oh, we don't, good.
Fantastic. All right, then let me make a couple of quick announcements. On December 9th at 12 p.m., the county commissioners will hold a budget retreat at AB Tech, 9 Genevieve Circle, Asheville, North Carolina, 28801. On January 4th at 3 p.m., the county commissioners will hold their briefing meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. On January 4th at 5 p.m., the county commissioners' regular meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville will be held at, again, at 5 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.